Okay, we are going to get started. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Lisa Kilrea, President and Managing Partner with WSI eResults. Today, we're going to be talking about how AI is changing the way manufacturers and B2B organizations are discovered online, and what that means for your organization in terms of visibility moving forward. As everyone is very well aware, over the past few years, we've seen the emergence of Google AI overviews, ChatGPT, AI-powered search, and a growing number of tools that are influencing how buyers research vendors and make decisions. The reality is, search has evolved, buyers are gathering information differently, and AI is increasingly shaping what they see before they ever visit a website. The good news is that many of the fundamentals still matter. What's changing is how that visibility is earned and how organizations build trust and authority in the new environment. Our goal today is to help you understand what's changing, what's not changing, and what manufacturers and B2B organizations can do to remain visible and competitive in the AI-first search world. Joining me today is Josh Huston, one of our strategic partners, and he's an AI strategist who helps organizations implement practical AI solutions to improve productivity and business performance. Later in the session, after I go through search everywhere optimization, Josh will share several real-world examples of how efficiency, visibility, productivity, and business performance can be improved by implementing AI tools. Let's start, though, by looking at how search behavior is changing. We'll cover three main areas today: how AI is changing search behavior, how AI decisions are being made, and what manufacturers can do to improve visibility in this new environment. Again, then Josh will share some real-world examples of these strategies in action. Historically, search followed a very simple path. Buyers searched on Google, clicked a website, researched vendors, and made a decision. That's why SEO focused so much on rankings and traffic to the website. The website essentially was the center of the buying journey. The challenge is that model is changing. Today, or the new way, AI is becoming part of the research process. Google AI overviews, ChatGPT, and other AI LLMs are answering questions directly within the search experience. As a result, many users get the information they need without ever visiting a website. In fact, 68% is the exact number, it's greater than 60%, of searches now end without a click. Search isn't becoming less important, but more research is happening before a prospect ever even reaches your website. In essence, what this means is Google is evolving from a search engine into an answer engine. AI overviews, featured snippets, and people also ask are sections that are specifically designed by Google to provide the answers directly in the search results. Search is increasingly about delivering answers rather than directing users to websites. Google's AI mode takes us even further by encouraging users to stay in the conversation and to continue asking questions. The key takeaway is simple. If you're not part of the answer, you're becoming less visible, even if you rank well. This slide tells us that research and evaluation are increasingly happening before the website visit. Buyers use AI, social platforms, videos, reviews, and industry resources to narrow options before ever reaching your site. The website definitely still matters, but it's increasingly becoming the place where decisions are confirmed rather than where research begins. Buyers are arriving later in the decision process and with more information in hand. The buyer's journey has essentially been compressed. Your website is no longer where exploration starts, it's where decisions are confirmed, which means Every page must clearly establish trust, expertise, and a clear next step. Visibility is no longer just about keywords and rankings. AI evaluates trust, authority, expertise, and credibility. The question isn't simply whether you rank, it's whether AI trusts you enough to recommend you. This slide summarizes the shift we've been discussing so far. Historically, on the left, SEO focused on rankings, keywords, traffic, and visibility within Google. Today, on the right side, these things still matter, but AI is evaluating additional signals. It's looking at trust, authority, expertise, citations, reviews, mentions, and visibility across multiple platforms. Think about your own buying behavior. You may start with Google, but then you visit LinkedIn, you may watch a YouTube video, you read some reviews, you check some industry forums, and then maybe you might ask ChatGPT for a recommendation. Your prospects are doing the same thing. The organizations winning visibility today aren't abandoning traditional SEO. They're building on those fundamentals while expanding their presence across the broader digital ecosystem. The key takeaway is simple. Visibility now depends on more than rankings alone. AI is looking for sources it can trust. This concept isn't true. EAT, E-E-A-T. Google has always rewarded content that demonstrates experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. AI simply applies those standards faster and at greater scale. The good news is, for manufacturers, most of the manufacturers already possess deep expertise. You have engineers, product managers, technical specialists, application experts, and sales teams with years of real-world knowledge that competitors often can't replicate. The challenge isn't having that expertise. The challenge is documenting the expertise and making it visible online. Content can no longer simply claim expertise. You have to show it or demonstrate it through real examples, customer stories, technical insights, case studies, and practical experience. This is exactly the type of content AI tends to trust and reference. If trust is the new gatekeeper, the next question is, what creates trust? While we don't necessarily know every factor that AI uses, we consistently see 5 signals that influence visibility and authority. AI looks for evidence of real-world experience, validation from others, visible expertise, consistency across the web, and broader authority signals. Think of these as trust-building signals. The more of them you demonstrate, the more confidence AI has in recommending your company. Let's look at each of the 5 trust signals. We've talked about why trust matters. The next question is, how does AI determine who it trusts? Well, no one outside the AI companies knows every factor involved. We consistently see 5 signals that are shown on the slide that influence visibility and authority. AI looks for evidence of real-world examples, validation from third parties, visible expertise, consistency across the web, and broader authority signals. These signals work together. No single signal is enough on its own, but together they help establish credibility and trust. Let's take a closer look at each of these 5 trust signals. The first signal, demonstrated expertise. AI increasingly rewards evidence over marketing claims. Manufacturers have a natural advantage because they possess deep technical knowledge, real-world experience, and practical problem-solving expertise. Things like case studies, customer success stories, technical resources, original research, videos, podcasts, and lessons learned all help demonstrate that expertise online. The companies gaining visibility aren't necessarily creating more content. They're creating more credible, useful content that helps buyers make decisions. That said, visibility does require a consistent presence. Depending on your starting point, your strategy may involve developing a mix of content and proof points, both on your website and across other channels where buyers and AI platforms are gathering information. The goal isn't necessarily to publish more for the sake of publishing. The goal is to ensure your expertise is visible, credible, and discoverable where your prospects are looking. The second signal is third-party validation. AI doesn't just evaluate what you say on your website or about your company. It evaluates what others say about you. Things like reviews, testimonials, industry mentions, podcast appearances, association memberships, and media coverage all contribute to trust. When multiple independent sources consistently reference your organization, AI sees that as a strong credibility signal. The third signal is visible expertise. AI increasingly wants to understand who is behind the content. That's why thought leadership, named authors, subject matter experts, webinars, speaking engagements, and expert authored content matter. Manufacturers and other B2B organizations often have tremendous expertise inside their organization. The key is making that expertise visible to both buyers and AI large language models. The final signals are consistency and authority. AI looks for a consistent story across your website, your social profiles, reviews, directories, and third-party mentions. It also looks for authority signals such as citations, engagement, and trusted references. When those signals align, trust increases. AI is essentially asking one question: can I confidently recommend this company? At this point, some people wonder if SEO still matters. Absolutely. Keywords, technical SEO, content, and backlinks are still critically important. The difference is they're now the foundation rather than the entire strategy for search everywhere optimization. Visibility today also requires trust, authority, and presence beyond your website. So what does this mean for your business specifically? The big picture is simple. Visibility is now earned across the entire digital ecosystem, not just on your website. Content, SEO, reviews, thought leadership, digital PR, and social visibility all work together. Authority has become cumulative, and organizations that understand that will have a significant advantage moving forward. At this point, you might be wondering whether everything you've built needs to be changed. The answer is no. That's the good news. SEO, or search everywhere optimization, isn't about starting over. It's about building on the foundation you've already created. You've invested in SEO, content, technical optimization, and thought leadership. Those investments still matter. What's changed is how visibility is earned and how buyers discover the information. Search everywhere optimization recognizes two realities. Buyers search in many places, and AI increasingly influences what gets surfaced and recommended. The goal is simple. Make your organization discoverable wherever buyers search and credible wherever AI evaluates. One of the biggest misconceptions right now is that AI visibility is simply a content problem. Content absolutely matters, but content alone doesn't create trust, authority, or visibility. AI evaluates your entire digital footprint, including your content, experts, reviews, citations, industry presence, and brand consistency. That's why search engine or search everywhere optimization goes beyond optimizing pages. It's about strengthening the entire digital ecosystem that influences your company's visibility. The first principle of search everywhere optimization is that buyers no longer rely on a single source for information. Think about a typical manufacturing buyer today. They may begin with Google, then review an AI overview, then ask ChatGPT a follow-up question, then watch a YouTube video, then visit LinkedIn, then read an industry article. Only after completing much of that research do many people visit a company website. AI learns from many of those same sources. Visibility isn't just about ranking. It's about being present everywhere buyers and AI are looking for answers. Principle number 2 of search everywhere optimization. Citations are the new link or the new click. Historically, success in search everywhere optimization was measured by traffic. How many visitors come to your website? Today, visibility often happens before the click. A prospect may receive the answer from Google AI overviews or ChatGPT without ever visiting a website. However, the organizations referenced within those answers gain visibility, credibility, and influence. That's why citations are becoming increasingly valuable. When AI repeatedly references your company, your content, your experts, or your research, your authority will grow. Traffic still matters, but influence is increasingly being established before someone clicks to your website. In many situations, being cited can be just as important as receiving that visit itself. Principle number 3 is that trust and authority are AI currency. This principle really brings everything together. AI increasingly favors organizations it can identify, verify, and trust. Think about how AI works. When ChatGPT, Gemini, or Google AI overviews generates an answer, they're effectively deciding which sources deserve to be recommended. That means AI is constantly evaluating credibility signals. Who created the content? Is the expertise visible? Are there customer success stories, technical resources, industry recognition, or real-world examples that support the claims that are being made? Are other trusted organizations referencing the company? Does the company appear consistently across platforms and sources? These are all extremely important questions because the organizations earning visibility aren't necessarily producing the most content, but they are creating enough content that's credible across multiple channels to consistently demonstrate expertise and authority. Success today requires both quantity and quality. You need sufficient content depth to establish expertise on the topics that matter most to your buyers, but that content also needs to be credible, helpful, and grounded in real-world experience. And because search now happens everywhere, that expertise can't live in just one format or one location. It needs to appear in blogs, case studies, videos, podcasts, website landing pages, LinkedIn posts. The list goes on, forums, industry publications, and other third-party sources. Trust and authority have become the currency of visibility. And unlike rankings, trust compounds over time. The more expertise across channels, formats, and trusted sources, the more authority you build, and the more likely AI is to surface your organization and future answers. Now let's get into the 2 principles of search everywhere optimization. AI often sends fewer visitors than traditional search, but those visitors tend to be further along in the buying process. Much of the research and comparison has already happened. Visitors may arrive on a product page, a service page, a resource page, or article. Very likely it's not your homepage. That means every page needs to quickly answer 4 questions. Who are you? What do you do? Why should I trust you? And what should I do next? Every page now plays a role in supporting a buying decision. Next slide. One question I hear often is whether technical SEO still matters. Absolutely. Technical SEO is foundational to your digital visibility. AI can't recommend information it can't access, understand, or trust. Site structure, page speed, crawlability, and content organization and navigation remain essential. The difference is that technical SEO is no longer the competitive advantage it used to be. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. Let's bring everything together. First, visibility now compounds over time and trust builds momentum. Second, AI visibility is influenced by much more than content. It's shaped by your website, experts, reviews, industry mentions, and your broader digital footprint. And third, success requires continuous adaptation. Search behavior is changing, AI is changing. The organizations that adapt earliest will create the greatest advantage. Before we move into execution, let's quickly summarize where search stands today. Despite the headlines, Google is not dead. Traditional SEO still matters, rankings still matter, technical SEO matters, and content still matters. The difference is search is no longer happening in just one place. Buyers are finding answers through Google AI overviews, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, LinkedIn, YouTube, forums, and other trusted resources, often before visiting a website. That's why we use the term search everywhere optimization. The goal isn't to replace search engine optimization, it's to expand it. So unfortunately, SEO is not becoming easier. It's more complex than ever because traditional efforts still matter, but now we need to worry about the everywhere and search everywhere optimization. The manufacturers gaining visibility today are combining strong SEO fundamentals with a broader strategy that helps them appear wherever buyers are researching and making decisions. We've covered how search is changing and how AI evaluates trust and authority. The bottom line is simple. SEO still matters, but visibility now extends far beyond Google. The manufacturers winning today are building authority wherever buyers and AI look for answers. That is search everywhere optimization. Now, let's look at some real life examples. Over the last 30 minutes, we've focused on how AI is changing visibility in particular, how buyers discover information, and why trust and authority are becoming increasingly important in search. But AI's impact goes far beyond marketing for manufacturers and B2B organizations. The same technology that's reshaping how buyers find and evaluate manufacturers is also changing how manufacturers operate, communicate, sell, and serve customers. That's why organizations are looking at AI from two perspectives. How can it help us become visible, which is what we've talked about up until now, and how it can help us become more effective and efficient. Josh, who will be speaking very shortly and is part of our strategic partner, Brandish, works with organizations that are actively implementing AI across their businesses. He's going to share real-world examples of how manufacturers and several other B2B companies are using AI today, not just to improve visibility, but to improve productivity, efficiency, decision-making, and overall business performance. Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lisa. And hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me clearly and my Wi-Fi is strong for this next block of time. I'm just going to be sharing for the next few minutes some practical examples. Like Lisa said, I'm Josh. I'm the co-founder of Brandish. We have a product called Agents Anywhere. Not to be confusing, but we help people change the way that they work by giving them clarity on how and where AI fits into their work today. So everything Lisa just walked you through is the trust signals, the authority, citations, being the new click. That's the strategy. But what I want to do in the next few minutes is show you what it actually looks like when a manufacturer puts it to work. So I have 4 examples today, 4 real builds from our team running right now every day for real companies. I'm going to keep the companies' names out of this and just use them as examples here. But the next The first one is most directly related to what Lisa has described. The next two show AI working across the sales function, which is right after the marketing. And then the last one's a little different, and I'll introduce that one when we get there. So let's start with the first one that picks right up where Lisa left off. All right, so we worked with a manufacturer who has an e-commerce website. Could be any of you sitting here in the crowd. And what I want to do is talk about their day-to-day and how we help them and what was the impact and result. So we worked with a road safety equipment supplier with about 900 product pages on their site, all of which needed real SEO content. They had, before we started working with them, a few helpers that had been in the company but not necessarily well versed in the digital marketing background. SEO was kind of new to them, and when we started, their website backend was a mess. It was clear that a few different people had worked and they had different methods and whatever. So there was a lot of gaps. They weren't showing up online was the main problem. So that their options were either build and hire a team internally, or continue to slug through it with the current way. And when they reached out to us, they were looking at 2 to 3 years to accomplish this. It was just a lot of work, and they were getting 1 or 2 pages done per week. It was very tedious. But all of their product expertise, the stuff that they actually could use to earn trust, was sitting right there in the team's head, right? In operations, in sales, and these other parts of the business, and it wasn't showing up online. That's exactly the gap Lisa's describing. Manufacturers have the expertise. Your team already has the information, but it's just sitting there in these people's heads and nowhere on the internet. So what we did was help them make it visible.
Hey, Josh, can I just jump in here for a second?
It wasn't AI, right?
We've got the wrong case study showing on the slide. Perfect.
All good. Thanks for catching that. So here's what we did. Instead of just using AI to write all this content and push it really fast, we used our SEO specialists to build a strategy. Then we met with the team. We gathered as much intel from them as possible, and then organized that information in a way that was going to rank. We did a lot of foundational, traditional SEO work, and then the adaptive work layered on top of that. And to execute, we spent the next couple of months working through making these updates programmatically. This was cool because AI was able to help us connect some of the dots and speed up some of the admin on the implementation side. But what we did was deliver their content in a way that didn't take 2 to 3 years. It didn't leave them kind of grasping for the slow approach of building their team and trying to figure it out on their own. And you can see here, this was relatively technical work since, or at least on the content side, this was very specific. This was like road signs. So where I was at, the result was the full catalog, 900 pages, optimized in a couple of months, not 2 to 3 years. And what we were able to do was make them show up on search. That was the result and impact, and it didn't take them forever. Let's move on to the next case study, Eugene. Next slide here is a dashboard, not a pile of recordings, is what we like to call this. This is a project where we worked with a recreational equipment manufacturer who is taking thousands of inbound calls a year, mostly sales, some customer support, but they have about 9 different buyer personas and about 17,000 SKUs. The problem was they were already recording each call, but the intelligence that was locked inside the audio wasn't showing up in their CRM. So the old call tracking system relied on a very rigid keyword matching system with poor tagging, and basically it missed the rich details of those back and forth conversations they were having every day. So the rep would hang up the phone, the signal from the call was lost, and the data just existed without a place to live. So nobody actually could get to it, except for that one rep who had it in their head. So what we did was we built a pipeline, and this was in order to unlock the nuggets inside of these calls that would read every call the moment it ends, automatically identify the market, which persona was tagged, the sales intelligence, the categories that we could add and enrich this information, and then score each call with an urgency so that the sales team could be notified, is this a right now follow-up, or is this something we should schedule a little bit later? But everything moved right into HubSpot from there. As you can see, we've created a mock-up of this on the slide here of what this intelligence dashboard started to look like. So before and after, when the call was finished, the insights were gone. After, the team opens the dashboard where every call is scored and tagged. High intent buyers, escalations, and warranty issues would surface directly to the end user. And those would also show up in their HubSpot so they could really access the information wherever they wanted to work. And like Lisa said, the expertise was there sitting in the conversations, but we used AI to make it visible and usable for them. The next project that I wanted to share is a stop guessing which lead to call project, which is a problem that a sales team that we worked with was encountering. They basically had a great list of leads coming in, and they have a slower sales cycle in general based off of their specific industry. This is a commercial cleaning franchise, so slightly different than manufacturing. But what they wanted to do is identify exactly who each rep should be calling each day. And right now, when we started working with them, they were shooting from the hip. So they had hundreds of leads flowing into HubSpot every month with no systematic way to tell which ones were hot from cold. And what happened is what always happens. The reps worked in the leads wherever they could. And we're calling cold leads, we're calling warm leads, we're calling hot leads at the same rate. So there were some genuinely high intent prospects that were sitting waiting for multiple days. Their close rate was stuck at 13-ish%, and the newer reps were lagging way behind their experienced team members. So there was a few different pain points they experienced. One was just speed to lead, and the second was their close rate, and I guess the third was also the ramp of new employees on the sales team taking a lot longer to perform at a high level. So when you compare their results to their leads, they were about half as performant. So the gap was really costing them a lot of money. What they had us do and what we worked with them on was building an agent that lives inside of their HubSpot and scores the intent real time across page visits, form fills, email engagements, and account level signals coming from their data that they already owned. There's a lot of information in their CRM. They just didn't have it all coordinated in a way that would tell them who to call when, right? So the second the lead crosses the hot threshold, the agent routes it to the right rep with full context attached in a suggested call script, because their sales team was on the phones. So they wanted to connect with a real person to each prospect, but they just needed to make sure they were saying the right stuff and they were reaching out to the right people. So the before and after for a rep's morning was before the day would start and they would guess where to spend their time. After we worked with them, they would open HubSpot and they would have a clearly marked, ranked, ready to call queue. The hottest leads at the top with context in their script already ready for them so that they could rock and roll. They dial instead of dig. And the result was the hot leads to the right rep went from days down to minutes. Zero manual triage from the management and the intent scoring running around the clock. That's the difference between the lead that they would win and that their competitor would take. So that's the third example of a project. This was on the sales side. Let's talk about the fourth one, which is on the admin side in the back office. So something that you've probably heard about a lot with AI is that AI can work on back office tasks in admin. It has nothing to do, in this case, with this example on the marketing or sales side, but it's a billing team that we helped. And I wanted to show you because AI can really help across the organization, way beyond just the front office, way beyond marketing, sales, and those kind of departments who get a lot of the AI thunder. So every time there was a billing cycle, so every month, the accounting team would manually go from a legacy system they were required to use and rekey everything across formats that didn't talk to each other. They were basically using an old system and a new system that they liked. So they wanted a better way to get the information between the two systems. What we did was we used an AI system. We created a custom solution because there wasn't really an available one to cross-check line items across both systems and do the inputs for them automatically. The system itself would flag any errors, clean up any disputes across the data, and introduce an easy human-in-the-loop approval process for their team to do the admin at scale. So basically every month they were sending about 1,500-ish invoices, and they were individually keying each one of those and spending about 3 weeks out of the month with a couple of people working on this. What we did was we created a better cycle for them. So the tool that they ended up with hosts a couple of AI agents inside of it, and it moves the information, helps them do the double check, and avoid the admin slog of typing between two systems. So if you can look at the screen here, I have a little bit of a few bullet points there, numbered lists. The shift for the team was they would spend 2 weeks going through everything, looking at both systems, getting to the final step, and then having to QA with multiple people just to make sure that they hadn't made any fat finger mistakes or human errors on accident. And then they would go in and then they would shoot things off. And if there was ever an issue, they'd have to come back from an admin perspective and or reconcile with a client who may have noticed there was an issue. We've been able to help them reduce their cycle down to an afternoon and reduce the amount of human errors down to zero, which is a really good, impactful like case study that I think so many companies are hoping to see, like the good examples with AI projects. And ultimately, when we did the math, this is about an 84% reduction in their billing cycle. So 200-ish hours given back to this small team who was already piled up with work, and makes them sleep better at night. That was one of the biggest outcomes that the team leader has shared with us, was that they are able to trust the system because of the checks and balances in place. And they're really able to fly through the approvals, and while they're going through approvals, double check everything is matching in the systems. So these are 4 examples, Eugene, if you want to hit the next slide, with 4 real builds, 4 different problems, all running today with existing clients. The thread tying them together is exactly what Lisa laid out earlier. The companies winning right now aren't the ones with the most content or the biggest budgets. They're the ones demonstrating real expertise, getting cited and surfaced, and showing up where their buyers are looking. And the good news is you don't have to solve all of this overnight. The companies that win just get started. They learn what works and they keep building momentum month after month. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Lisa for a few resources that can help you keep going. Lisa, back to you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Josh. Those were great, those are extremely powerful examples. And I hope for everybody that's in attendance today that these examples did illustrate the broader point that AI is no longer just a marketing tool. And it's not just about improving visibility, but it can streamline workflows, increase productivity, and support better decision-making across the business. So like Josh said, before we move into Q&A, I'd like to share a few final resources to help you continue your AI-driven search everywhere optimization implementation. If today's discussion resonated with you and you'd like to learn more about how AI is reshaping search, I highly recommend The Search Revolution, written by Dan Monahan, who happens to be the founder of WSI Corporate. It is available on Amazon, and it does an excellent job of explaining many of the trends that we've discussed today and what organizations can do to adapt in an AI-first search environment. And then one final opportunity for you before we wrap up. Throughout today's presentation, we've talked about thought leadership, visible expertise, third-party validation, and building authority beyond your website. I've mentioned probably more than a handful of times podcasts. So I happen to be the host of a podcast show called In Good Company, where relationships drive results. If you would like to be a guest, please reach out to me. You can scan the QR code. What's really awesome about podcast appearances is that you can leverage them in many single ways. A single podcast recording can become thought leadership content, LinkedIn posts, searchable AI content, third-party validation, and increased industry visibility. There's a lot you can accomplish with a podcast episode. If you have an interesting story, expertise to share, or know someone who would make a great guest, I'd love to connect. Like I said, simply scan the QR code. And to wrap up, thank you again for joining us today. We hope you leave with a clear understanding of how AI is reshaping search, visibility, and the buyer journey, and what manufacturers can do to stay ahead. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have. If we don't get to your question, please feel free to reach out to Josh or myself after the session. With that, Eugene, let's open it up to questions.
Okay. So the first one is for you, Lisa.
Okay.
How do I explain this shift to leadership when they're still focused on rankings?
Okay, that's a good question. I think that's kind of the essence of what we went through today. So I would definitely leverage my slides And I think the first challenge or task at hand, if you're in that situation, is to educate leadership. Without them understanding the magnitude and the complexity of what's happening, they're very unlikely to move beyond traditional SEO KPIs and metrics. So I think they need to understand probably the search everywhere optimization concept and the fact that Google is no longer running the entire visibility show. And I would start by educating them on what's changed and what they need to do to maintain and increase visibility over time.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. The next one is for Josh. So Josh, from the case studies you've shared today, what separates the companies seeing success from those that are struggling to adapt?
Great question. So the biggest difference in those that are winning versus those that are falling behind or struggling is going to be their belief on who should bring the expertise. There's a common, I would call it a misconception, but it's very common, where people think that because AI is good at answering questions and pulling information, that it is the new expert for all of these things. Those that are winning, we see coming to us with a strong foundation. They're asking for help up front. They're asking for guidance. They want to work with people who have been around the block, who've been working in this side of a new form of technology for multiple years, right? The ones that are winning are getting the guidance and leaning forward versus those that come to us struggling. They've tried a lot on their own. They've gotten lost along the way. They've bought the wrong tools, or they've tried to invest in projects without clarity. And that's where they're struggling, is they don't know where to start. So that would be, I mean, it's a shameless sales plug, but that's true, is the projects that come in that are the most successful are ones where we get to steer the ship and help align our goals together with them, versus those that come in and have already tried, or they've never started and they think that they can do it without support. Those are the ones that fall behind.
Thanks, Josh. I think we still have time for the last question, Lisa.
Okay.
So you've interviewed a lot of business leaders on your podcast. So in good company,
Yep.
is there a common theme you're hearing from the CEOs and executives right now?
I would say, one of the themes that I'm hearing from them, and which kind of piggybacks off of what Josh said, is that, they're struggling. They're struggling to understand what they should be doing from an AI perspective, whether it's for increased visibility through search everywhere optimization, or it's a problem, an operational problem or workflow that they would like improved to save them time. So, I think that's probably the biggest problem. They don't know what to do. And then I would say probably the second theme is, they're concerned a bit about their employees just randomly trying different things in the AI world. So, just dabbling with Gemini or Perplexity or Claude or whatever the chosen large language model may be. And as we all know, we hear about this, we read about it on the news. AI can be detrimental. It can hurt you if it's not done correctly. So I think there may be some fear of, everyone doesn't really know what they're doing. So we're probably not going to do anything right now. But they know that's not the right thing. So I would definitely suggest, somewhat to Josh's point, is that, reach out to an expert. There are companies, such as WSI, that do training for companies and will give your team that foundational knowledge that they need to correctly and safely utilize various AI tools to help them in their jobs. And start slow, start with the basics, see how it goes, and then, take it to the next level several months later after they've incorporated it into their daily workflows.
Cool.
Great. Eugene, Lisa, I see there's a question in the chat from Gregory. I'm happy to answer that live.
Okay, go ahead.
Awesome. Hey, Gregory, great question. So for everyone else, this is a question from Gregory. Josh mentioned building the billing engine, having used AI to build spreadsheets, but not in detail about how these platforms interact across platforms. What platform did you use to build it is the question. The simple answer is AI comes in many shapes and forms. So you're describing the chat platforms like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Copilot. Those are tools where the users will talk to the tool and chat. And in some cases, those tools can connect to other systems through connectors. That's typically what they call it. I'll leave it at that and not get too technical. For the billing example, we actually built them a custom solution that has an agent that works all the time for them. So it doesn't operate off of a chat interaction. It's actually a dashboard. The team uploads a document that triggers the information from the old system and then uses the back end of the other system to upload things, but we have the system reach out to them for quality assurance. So in this case, the chat happens at them, not from them. If that is clear enough. But if you're thinking about how to do this beyond a spreadsheet, if you're using ChatGPT, if your ChatGPT is connected to one system in that tool and another system, it's very common that you can add information across both systems using that as the conduit. But this required a little bit more of a custom interface. So now they have their own application that we've built for a couple of different departments. There's another project that I didn't mention that they use us for. But yeah, in this case, there's an agent that lives in between the work.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay. Eugene, was there anything else there that you wanted to ask, or did we cover the questions that you saw coming through?
I think you've covered everything, guys.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone, for attending. We appreciate your time and attention. We will be sending the recording and the slides afterwards. So you can share them with colleagues. You can share them with leadership at your team, on your team. And thank you again. Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone.